let's talk about love, marriage, and privacy, all included in this book. I'm not going to read this entire book to you, but there are 2 chapters that I feel are very important just for everybody to know. But before I do, this book is called The Old Money Book. It's by Byron Tully. He wrote this book, and the theme is How to Live Better While Spending Less: The Secrets of America's Upper Class. What this book is not is a tool to help you to become old money. It's not a book about how to amass wealth. This is a book about, hey, these are some of the practices and habits of old money. Not just the people that you see that have money, not just the people that you think have money, but actual old money, meaning these are people who have had their money for generations and they continue to sustain it. I think that it is so important that we have this discussion and we make that distinction, because oftentimes in the internet space, when I've been reading this book, when you talk to people generally about wealth and old money, people sometimes have a hard time distinguishing what that means. Old money is not necessarily going to be flashy. It can be, but typically it's not, because they are very rooted in the practice of having money and how it feels to have money, the experience of it. And so they don't really need to pacify themselves with adorning themselves externally. They do dress nicely. That's not to say that they don't, because I don't like the conversation that wealthy people don't care about name brand and fashion. I think that it's the opposite. I think they do, but I think that they're more drawn to quality materials and things that are going to improve their quality of life. They're more drawn to having things that are passed down. So like, you might have your grandmother's pearls or your great grandmother's pearls. You might have a sweater or a dress that belonged to your aunt or your great grandmother, and you keep those things up over time. Why? Because they're not polyester. That's not saying they don't ever buy polyester, but what I mean is they will buy name brand and expensive things if it makes sense to whatever their goals are. And they're all going to have different goals. But this is not to be confused with just people who have money and spend it frivolously. So please take that into consideration as we read. I highly recommend that you get this book. It is look how it's a very short read. You can read this book in a day. And it's really straightforward. I can appreciate that. So this section is about family and marriage. I'm going to read that. And I'm going to read the section about privacy to you. And we're just going to talk about it just a little bit. Family and marriage. A happy family is but an earlier heaven. That is a quote by George Bernard Shaw. The success of the marriage and the success of the family unit is the 6th core value of old money, but it may be the single most important one. Divorce, domestic violence, drug and alcohol abuse, unplanned pregnancies, spoiled or maladjusted children, these are deadly to old money or money of any age. Nobody knows what's going to happen when they get married. Nobody knows what's going to happen when they get married. When I read this section on TikTok, people were like, you can choose all you want, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to end up with a narcissist. That's not what's being said here. The point is to set yourself up for success within the means that you can control. You can pick well, you can choose a man from a good family or a woman from a good family, and all the things can line up and everything can look good on paper. And then 2 to 3 years in, you can find out that they're a psycho. That is a possibility. But what he's saying is you should do everything in your power to choose well, instead of just having this passive approach of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to love who I love. People are people. That's not something that apparently old money lives by. And when I read this section, you will understand why, and you will want to adopt it in your own life. So again, as I'm reading this to you, don't be cynical. Really think about if these are things that you would agree with and how you can practically apply it to your life. Almost everything that he mentions in here are things that anybody can apply. We just choose not to, because it's easier to say, well, that's easy for them to say, they have money. Even when it came down to the chapter about finances and like purchasing cars, a lot of people were so upset because I read from the book that he was saying how it's less likely for old money to spend frivolously on cars unless that's their thing. Typically they'll get cash cars, well-maintained cars, easily maintained cars, sustainable cars. So you might be in this category of old money as he describes it, but you drive in 2025 like a 2015 Toyota Camry, but it's well kept. And to be clear too, he's old money, these people that he's referring to, again, these are people who have been able to keep their money generationally. So they may be living off of their income, and then they're using their inheritance to do other things, or vice versa. And I want to make that clear too, because you can be a teacher from old money, you can be an attorney, you can be anything, because the idea is y'all have money that is being passed down from generation to generation, and most of your other luxuries and your lifestyles are afforded by that. So you have the luxury as an individual to pursue interests that you're actually passionate about. So imagine you're a teacher and you enjoy being a teacher, and you're okay with taking less money for being a teacher because who cares? My bills are paid for and I know how to live a comfortable life in a sustainable way, and I'm linked in with my network and my family does well. So that's the idea here, right? So nobody knows what's going to happen when they get married, but there are things old money does to tilt the odds of happiness and success in their favor. Consider these as you contemplate marriage and family. Old money marries later in life and marries once. A lot of people say, no, they don't, they get divorced. We're talking about principles and the norms here. Chemistry is important, but shared values are more important. A lot of times we go on chemistry only. Oh, I get butterflies. Oh, there's such a connection between us. But have you talked about what your values are? Have you talked about what your plans are for the future? Have you talked about how you want to raise your kids? Do you want to homeschool them? Do you want them to go to school? Is college an option? Do you want to prepare them for other things? Do you want to live in a small town? Do you have these conversations? Chemistry will come and go, but shared values like the ones documented in this book, where a couple is going, what behavior is acceptable, those keep people together. Old money couples have a very clear idea about what their lives and futures are supposed to be like. Not because their parents had money and they have money, but because their parents had a common set of values and they have a common set of values. So again, when he talks about old money, he's talking about people who, no matter what level of old money they are or how much money they have in their account at any given time, they share these values. He talks about old money from a set of values more than he talks about how much money they actually have. They also have clear expectations about their lives together. Things change as life goes on, but these shared values and expectations remain and keep couples on the same track. Old money is never in a rush to get married. You shouldn't be either. If you truly believe your love is eternal, why not date for a while? A 3-year engagement is good. It gives you time to see how the other person reacts to life's ups and downs. It gives you time to go through things as a couple. People can change in unexpected ways. A long engagement gives you both the opportunity to experience these changes, assess them, and adjust to them. And feel free not to announce your engagement to the world. It takes the social pressure off of making a decision to end the relationship if things don't go according to plan. While you're engaged, you can simply say to friends and family, we're dating each other exclusively right now. I thought that this was really important for him to say. There's a few things that obviously you can take it or leave it. Personally, I don't think it takes 3 years to get to know somebody in that regard. But I also think that there's a difference between a 3-year engagement or relationship where we know that if things go well and we are connected and we agree in the way that we intend to, we're going to end in marriage, versus we're just here and we're just going to see how it is and we're just going to go with the flow. One is a complete waste of time and one is a very practical approach to relationships. So keep that in mind. Now, this is the part that makes people uncomfortable. Get feedback. And it makes people uncomfortable because a lot of us are traumatized by our own families, but that doesn't make this poor advice when executed properly. It's not just in the movies. When a single old money person begins to get even remotely serious about a potential mate, the potential mate is scrutinized intensely by old money friends and the old money family. Suspicion or disapproval usually ends things quickly. So allowing people who know you well to vet this person and make decisions, as opposed to being like, they're not going to tell me what to do, I'm not taking their advice, who are they to tell me how I should live my life? Well, they're the people who know you and they want what's best for you, right? So we should be more open to having that feedback. Once you start dating someone who may be a potential mate, you should introduce them to your friends and family too. If your friends and family do not like the prospective spouse, that may be a signal that something is amiss, either with them or the potential spouse. So he's not saying go off with what they're saying, but take their feedback into consideration when you're making your decision. Have the courage to ask in private, candid questions about any misgivings they might have about the person you are dating. Do not react to their responses, which may be painful to hear. Listen, consider, and then make your choices. It's often said that you don't just marry your spouse, you marry the family. Keep that in mind. And I brought this up when I was talking about mother-in-laws and how so many people have this deep disdain and disgust for their mother-in-laws, and they run from the accountability when I say part of what you decided to marry was that mother-in-law. And I'm not blaming you for the way that the lady is, but I'm saying that if you were dating her son and you saw how she was and he was not defending you, or you didn't like the way that she was treating you and you decided to marry him anyway, you agreed to deal with those things, right? It's not right. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to improve things or try to find a solution to the problem. But you welcome that problem by marrying that man knowing that his mother was like that. And too often we don't think about that. We don't think about the fact that we're marrying traditions. We're marrying the family. And I think this is honestly why in Christianity we're told not to be unequally yoked, because when you believe this and this person believes this, there's going to be very little in between other than you're floating and passing chemistry that keeps you grounded, that keeps you in a state of understanding each other. So this is something that's really important. It says, gents, be smart about the ring. If you're under the illusion perpetuated by the diamond industry that you should spend 3 times your monthly salary on your bride's engagement or wedding ring, snap out of it. It's not a passing contest. It's not a pissing contest. It's a relationship. It's also the first major financial decision you're going to make as you start your life together. Don't blow it by paying for a ring that she knows is beyond your means. Weigh that. Consumers never have enough, and there may be self-esteem issues she or you needs to address. This is something that comes up a lot. I've even had people ask me questions about this, and I think that it does scream insecurity at times. I think if you truly want a wedding and you truly want a ring, that's fine, but do things that are within your means and ask yourself if every decision that you're making is for you, for show, or what the reason is. We did elope. And as a result of that elopement, we had the finances to do things much faster. We bought a house very quickly. We were able to start having kids and do all of these other things, travel as freely as we wanted to, simply because we did not make the decision to spend thousands and thousands and thousands on a wedding, thousands and thousands and thousands on rings and all of these things, right? So take those things into consideration. Do you want those experiences? Is it important to you? And understand that it's very possible to have a wedding, a ceremony under like $1,000 if you do things productively. There's actually a story. I'm going to put the post that I reacted to. In 2022, there's a couple that got married, beautiful wedding. They only spent $500. So I'll link that for you just for an idea's sake. Ladies, if you absolutely must have something large and sparkling to show to your girlfriends and to the world, snap out of it. It's the start of your life together, not a fairy tale. If your chosen one feels like he has to buy you an expensive ring even he can't afford, weigh that. Being financially responsible is a habit. It takes 2 to make a successful marriage. Everybody be smart about the wedding. At the time of this writing, the average wedding in America costs $30,000. This spending by mostly the middle class occurs during a time when consumer debt, student loans, unemployment, and recession run rampant. Old money is bewildered at this kind of behavior. Consider saving that money that would have been spent on a lavish wedding. Use it wisely for the benefit of the newlyweds and their children. Student loans can be eliminated or greatly reduced. Conservative investments can be made to form the initial nest egg for a young couple, reducing the stress of potential unemployment or making it possible for them to pursue a passion while underemployed. Is the bride or groom an artist or a musician? Money can be set aside for continuing education to boost the bride or groom's career and income earning potential in the future. Could the bride or groom benefit from having an MBA? If both the bride and groom are educated on solid financial ground and happy with their careers, a trust fund can be set up for the education of their children who haven't yet been born. So you see that they're talking about these things in a way that is much more than just a wedding. And I don't want to say just a wedding, but a wedding is entertainment. Do what you want, but accept this reality that a wedding is entertainment, right? And so it's fine to entertain people and to have guests and to celebrate things, but at what cost is it too much? And so I think that what they're saying here, and a lot of times we hear about people say things like, oh, well, their family gave them a down payment. That's a blessing. You know how it's such a blessing to have your family be able to support you in a way. We were able to do something very similar to this when we first got married too. And what they mention here is the family, instead of having this extravagant wedding, maybe they actually have the money to do the wedding, but that's not the point. The point is that something that you're willing to spend the resources on when you can use them for something that is more productive for the couple. Have candid conversations about the wedding particulars and financials, priorities with the future in-laws. If you or anyone in the family believe there absolutely must be a lavish talk of the town fairy tale wedding in order to fulfill some fantasy and make someone's life complete, ask why. Is this about the bride and groom or some perceived position in the community? Whom do you wish to impress? At what price? Newlyweds, do you want an impressive wedding or do you want a life together? And you can have both, but an impressive wedding doesn't have to be lavish and expensive and over the top. A wedding lasts a day or 3 in some cultures. A life together, by definition, lasts a lifetime. How a young couple starts their lives together can make a world of a difference. He's not telling you not to have a wedding. He's not telling you not to celebrate, because I know that was another thing that got people upset. What he is saying is be practical and be wise and understand what kind of resources you have to be working with before you consider doing all of these things. Old money is prepared emotionally and financially to make a commitment. You should be too. You should think it through. Emotions are powerful, so is rent. Numerous honest and articulate discussions about making a life together never hurt a couple. Wait a minute. Old money is prepared emotionally and financially to make a commitment. You should be too. You should think it through. Emotions are powerful, so is rent. Numerous honest and articulate discussions about making a life together never hurt any couple. If the passion cools considerably in the hard light of day, weigh that. If thinking and planning a future together reasonably and thoughtfully only ignites more passion, you may have chosen the right mate. Will, with all due respect to everyone's religious beliefs, use birth control? And again, this is something that I did not agree with, but I think that what he's saying here is to plan accordingly, because I'm going to continue to read this. Nothing strains a relationship or sidetracks a couple's progress like an unexpected pregnancy. Married or not, pregnancy changes everything, and the younger and less established a couple is, the more drastic those life changes can be. Finances are the most obvious source of strain, but an unplanned pregnancy can put hopes, dreams, education, and careers on the back burner, out of reach altogether. This can foster resentment, unhappiness, and ultimately a separation or divorce. So plan. Again, I don't agree with the act and the use of birth control, but I do believe that there are things that you can do to keep yourself safe from those things, right? And you can talk that over with the person that you're with. But again, very, very important. If you're just starting out, have children later in life, ask yourself who's more prepared to be a parent, an 18-year-old or a 28-year-old. And this is why you often see parents who really are old money, they tend to be older parents, right? They'll be the parents that are gray-haired at the games. They're a little bit more established in life and they have things more figured out. And we frown upon that. I still believe that there's value and beauty in being a young parent, but I do think that this is worth considering. If it depends on what your life plans are, taking these values to heart and really sitting with them. How old do you want to be and how established do you want to be? Because the younger you are, the less established you are. And the younger you are when you have kids, the more financial output and work you'll have to do to try to keep up with everything else, because children are not cheap, right? They're as cheap as we make them. But sometimes there are things that you can't control. So having fewer children or don't have any at all, the planet is a finite place and the world population is growing at an incredible rate. Closer to home, if you and your partner are struggling to care for one child, don't have another. It's that simple. I think that is very true. Coupled with a lot of the other principles that he has in the book, though, we also have to understand that sometimes we do ourselves a disservice, especially in middle class, by buying things that we don't need and can't afford, and we get into consumerism so heavily that we make ourselves poorer than we need to be. So I think it's important to also consider that when you're having this conversation. Again, I don't necessarily agree with this entire section, but I do think that these are things that should be spoken about. Nothing keeps families in poverty like continuous pregnancies that a family has not planned for. And if you don't have any children, the world will not come to an end. I disagree. Have children. But again, listen to what he's saying, because he's not saying don't have children at all. He's saying, are you stable enough to have children? Have you had conversations about what that's going to look like? So he's not wrong in any of what he's saying. Old money families have clear boundaries. For you, this means keeping extended family in their place. Well-intentioned relatives can come along on strong when a couple first gets married or has their first child. Be grateful for their love and support, but draw the line with meddling. Be polite when you communicate the boundaries to relatives, but be firm. You and your partner and your child are the immediate family unit now, as well as part of a bigger family unit. Make your own rules and solve your own problems. Go to relatives for help and advice only as a last resort. Anything unflattering that you tell your parents about your spouse will be held against them and the spouse for a very long time, perhaps forever. You are going to be more forgiving of your spouse than anybody. Anything that you tell your parents, they in their head, oh no, right? And they're going to hold that against that person. So be very wary of what you tell other people, your family, your friends, about what's going on in your relationship with your husband or your wife. Even after the difficult time has passed and you've returned to marital bliss, your parents will remember that you told them that. So don't tell them anything but good things. This is an example of the wedding and principles in marriage. Jack, who aspires to be old money, has just graduated from college. He's in his early 20s. He has student loans to pay off. While still living at home with his parents, he finds a job. It does not pay as well as he'd hoped, but there's opportunity for advancement, and that's what he's looking for. Instead of immediately going out, renting an apartment, and racking up a host of monthly living expenses, Jack sits down with his parents and had a heart-to-heart conversation. He tells them that he wants to remain at home for the next year or two. His reasons are twofold. He wants to pay for his student loan debt as well as save money. He's done a budget. He shares it with them. He offers his parents a fair amount to cover food and utilities while he lives at home. He itemizes how much he's going to pay off his student loan each month. He itemizes how much he's going to put in the bank each month and not take it out for any reason. And he also mentions that he plans on taking 1 weekend per month and going out of town, or at least out of the house. His parents, impressed by his forethought, agree. They ask only that he pay for his groceries and not play the drums after 10 p.m. They also agree to certain house rules. Jack's an adult, but it's their home, and they'll communicate often and honestly on a regular basis about how the living arrangement is working. This goes back to what I said about helping your adult children, and people think that I was saying enabling, but I'm actually talking about a system that will build responsibility and accountability while making both parties comfortable, because you shouldn't make your parents uncomfortable in their home, and you as the child living at home shouldn't feel uncomfortable either. 18 months later, Jack has reduced his student loan debt substantially. He's also managed to accumulate a very nice cash nest egg for his future. He did not use credit cards, he stayed under budget, and he did not have to pay rent. And oh yes, Jack got a promotion at work. Now he has options. He can double down on his student loan payments, he can move into a 1-bedroom apartment and still save money and pay off his debt, or he can decide to live at home another 6 months and really save money. During this time, Jack has met Jill. Jill is also living with her parents and starting her career as an artist. Her income is not as steady or as substantial as Jack's, but her potential as an artist is strong. It's also what she loves to do. Her uncle is an old money guy. Jack and Jill agree on a 3-year engagement. This will give Jack time to improve his position financially and will also give Jill time to pursue her career as an artist. Notice there's intention. He's not like dating her and, oh, we'll see how this goes. They agree. We're engaged and we are planning to get married. We will not get married until within a 2 to 3 year time frame when we have these things figured out and that's communicated explicitly. And I think that at that 3-year mark, if something just doesn't look right, then of course you make your decision. But I think this is what he's stating here, where if you take your time and you do these things and you carefully plan, you can have a more successful marriage because there's no bitterness, there's no resentment. You didn't have to give up all of these things before committing to one another. And again, I believe that it is possible to just get married and do these things right away, but I can also understand why he is saying this. They will not get pregnant. They will not purchase a ridiculous engagement ring to impress anyone. We don't repeat things because we're forgetful. We repeat things because you're forgetful. He's saying that about the book. They will reduce their respective debt and save as much as they can. They will enjoy life. They will be in love. By the time they marry, Jack will have been promoted again. His student loan debt may be paid off. He will have a very nice nest egg. Jill's art will be selling and generating income in addition to her day job. They will have their modest wedding in her uncle's backyard. It's big enough. They will leave on their honeymoon more financially sound than any of their peers, and they will not yet be 30 years old. Many readers might scoff at this scenario as unrealistic, but Italians, Indians, and Iranians have been doing it for generations with admirable results. Helpful hints. Look at her mother. That's how she's going to look in 30 years. Look at how he treats his siblings. That's how he's going to treat you in 3 years. If you would not consider marrying someone, don't date them. Do not rely on luck or promises to avoid pregnancy or disease. If your future spouse or family is not rich, keep the wedding simple and inexpensive. If you have doubts about marriage immediately before the ceremony, do not marry. They call that cold feet, but there's a reason you're getting it. If you can't afford to be married, do not marry. When you marry, it's a partnership. Continue dating after you marry. Look nice. Send flowers. Light candles. Do not discuss your spouse's faults with others. This makes you look stupid for marrying them. Do not discuss your sex life with anyone but your partner or a professional therapist. When you consider infidelity, you are not playing with fire. You are playing with dynamite. Avoid ultimatums. Laugh. And so the next section is privacy. Let's see if we can get through this one. I made a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of mistakes, but before the internet came along, thank God. OMG from Boston, still wishing to remain anonymous. That was a quote. The final and perhaps most important core value of old money is privacy. It's been said that old money individuals who live appropriately have their names on the newspapers 3 times: when they're born, when they marry, and when they die. In contrast, contemporary American culture is fame obsessed, and it appears that the disease is contagious. The public equates fame with accomplishment, even accepting the acquisition of fame as an accomplishment upon itself. The internet has convinced people that others really. The final and perhaps the most important core value of old money is privacy. The internet has convinced people that others really care about what they do all day, that their opinions are worth considering, and that having the opportunity and the ability to share information means that it should be shared. We don't, they aren't, and you shouldn't. Old money lives discreetly. There are reasons for this. Discretion minimizes resentment from others. It minimizes requests for financial assistance from friends, relatives, and strangers. It minimizes attentions from criminals as well as would-be suitors who wish to marry into money. It assists in developing and maintaining healthy friendships with others who may have less money. This is so funny because I also was considering this, like with content creation and things of that nature. And one of the things that I thought about was how often people will say, oh, I don't relate to that content creator anymore. One of the things that shifts the relatability is that a lot of content creations start as like, get it out the mud. They have a very basic surroundings, very basic things that they're living for, and as they get successful, obviously they level up their life visibly, right? And so I think that if you're going to go, he doesn't speak about this, but I think that if you're going to go that route of putting yourself out there, you should be very wary of that. I'm not one to do like day in the life vlogs because I don't want people knowing where I am, at what time, where I'm going, who I'm meeting with, where I frequent, where I eat, where I pick my kids up from school, or whatever the case may be. I just don't want that type of information out there. But this is something that even made me consider the way that I deliver my content and the way that I present my ideas, because I do want to still maintain privacy. This is why you do not see my husband and my children online. Well, you see a little bit every now and then because he ain't got no self-control yet, y'all. But this is why I do it in that way, because as much as I do enjoy the content creation and I am willing to put myself out there in that regard, there are things that I don't want to sacrifice as part of my life and I don't want to reveal. I want to keep those things private. So I think that if you're in content creation, that's something that you should also consider. The lack of conspicuous consumption and haughty behavior helps old money and the public hold focus. The focus being that we're all human beings. We're all citizens of our particular city, nation, and the world. While we may have more or less resources than others, we walk the same streets and contribute to or detract from the overall quality of life by our behavior. We do this in ways large and small. Old money knows this. Old money remembers this. Old money knows that sometimes, like it or not, others look to it to set an example, to set a standard. So I actually wanted to skip down to a different section. It says, in matter of finances, it is also best to keep your affairs confidential. Money is discussed with your family in private or with professionals, such as a CPA or money manager. It is uncouth to discuss your net worth, income, material possessions, or career position in a social setting. The only thing worse is discussing someone else's. Both scenarios reek of insecurity and tell the world that you are a recent arrival to the moneyed class or an imposter. If someone asks a question you're not comfortable answering, you have options. You may say, that's an interesting question. Why do you ask? When they tell you why they want to know, you will have a clearer picture about their intentions and then decide on how to respond, if you decide to respond at all. I'm sorry, that's not something I discuss is a solid stock reply, or I'm sorry, I can't answer that. Then stop talking, change the subject, or excuse yourself politely and walk away. And I love those because they're very non-confrontational and they remind people like, not everything is your business, that's my business. Some clever people may ask, what did you say you do for a living? When they know full well you haven't mentioned it. Feel free to say, I didn't. Americans have a bad habit of asking people what they do for a living upon initial introduction. A good response to this is to keep your reply vague by saying, I'm in the entertainment business, and continue saying, but my real passion is Egyptian history. Chances are the person will take the hint and ask about Egyptian history. You can talk about Tut briefly and then ask them about their passions or interests. Maintaining your privacy can be simple. Don't talk about it. Don't put it in writing. Don't post it on the internet. Helpful hints. If anyone tells you they're old money, they're not. Run, don't walk away. Wow, I knew they had money, but I had no idea they had that much money. This is a frequent comment about people who suddenly realize their friends are old money. If you discover that your friend is old money, never mention it to your friend or anyone else. To do so does risk the friendship. Be more, seem less. Be more, seem less. A secret is not something you tell a person at a time. The personal information and photos you've posted online are there forever. There's something to consider when you think about new relationships, college applications, and job applications. Fame is like wearing a fur coat 365 days a year, and if you don't think it's fleeting, pick up a 2-year-old copy of your favorite tabloid. You cannot control fame, but you can control privacy. And that goes back to what I said. If you're going to be doing things, you can't control how it's going to be perceived by people, but you can still relatively control the level of privacy that you have for yourself. Don't do anything for the approval of anyone else, especially the public. Be careful what you share with others. Be careful who you invite to your residence. It's difficult for others to disrupt, sabotage, or voice an opinion about something they don't know about. Mystery is the new black. Conversation is also the new black. One poorly timed comment or action in public can destroy a reputation built over decades. That's really important. Slow down and think. Don't be reactive. Watching television is not preferable, but it's preferable to being watched on television or watched by television. Just because someone with a microphone or camera asks you a question does not mean that you're required to answer. Get off Facebook, get out, spend time with real friends face to face and talk. Don't gossip. When someone else starts to, excuse yourself and step away. That's a great habit because then people naturally stop doing it. I hang up on people when they call me talking about other people, and they get the hint very quickly to the point where people don't call me for foolishness and people don't feel comfortable talking about other people in my presence. It's very subtle. It's not rude, but people catch on to it. If you can, do not have your actual home address or your driver's license. If you can, do not have your home address printed on your checks. Use a mail drop or a post office box. If you're in a high profile or controversial line of work, consider having cards printed with only your name and email address, perhaps a mobile number on it. Give it to people you meet in social settings instead of your business card. And again, this is coming from the Old Money book. I just wanted to share these particular sections because I think that they will bless so many of us in our community here on TikTok and in the community here on YouTube. If you're considering marriage, if you like the topics that I discuss, I think that you would really enjoy this book. It's very insightful. Again, not to mimic old money and to be something that you're not, but to model their principles so that you can live a better and more purpose-driven life, a better and a wealthier life, wealthy from the perspective of having the things that you want, having good health, having good relationships, having good practices. And again, this is by Byron Tully. I will try to find a link and put it below, but I'm pretty sure you can still get it on Amazon. That's where I got it, and it was less than $10 when I purchased it. It's not a book that's in like bookstores and things like that, so I would check before you go to your nearest Barnes & Noble to make sure that it's there. It's very good, very quick read, and I thank you for joining me today. I will see you in the next video.